So Aphex Twin, Björk, the XX, the White Stripes, Snoop Dogg, Sigur Rós, Brian Eno. Like, they're literally a list of some of my favorite artists ever. Yeah. Mandy Parnell. So 2017 at the Loop Festival. Mandy Parnell was being interviewed, and Ableton.com. Ableton have just basically, Loop is the Ableton sponsored festival all about tech and music and all that kind of stuff. And Mandy Parnell is, if you don't already know, she's an award-winning and industry-leading mastering engineer. Worked with amazing artists who I love. So Aphex Twin, Björk, the XX, the White Stripes, Snoop Dogg, Sigur Rós, Brian Eno. Like, they're literally a list of some of my favorite artists ever. Anyway, many, many more. And yeah, she was talking to some chap on a couch on an interview, and I've watched half of it, and I had some thoughts and some kind of summary really of the things that she was going through. I thought it might be good to share it because, well, she's awesome, and I learned quite a lot from when I watched it about mastering, about her, about the process, and felt quite inspired. I've just started doing a bit of mastering for different people, and I'm really trying to learn more about it and kind of get more into it because I did a little course, and yeah, I realized that it's something that I find pretty interesting. So yeah, first off, the video. So it's on ableton.com/blog. It's also on YouTube, Mandy Parnell in Conversation. She's worth checking out in terms of her work and her, her career. She's really been at the top of the game for a long, long time. And but yeah, so this is my takeaways from the first half an hour of the video. So number one, people can spend months and years making music, making a piece of art. An album or a song often goes through many stages, and the artists and the producers and the mix engineers in some cases get really attached to it, and they've kind of lost objectivity. So a mastering engineer, the way Mandy says it, is that they're the first set of ears who provide some objective listening and some feedback. And what she does is she likes to have a really good sense of what the artist's intentions were, the artist's goals, their kind of creative intentions, how they made the music, etc., etc. And she really spends the time kind of meeting with them and talking with them. A lot of her work, she says, is discussions. The technical stuff and the actual mastering stuff is actually the last bit she talks about. It's the cherry on the cake. She's far more interested in understanding what the artist is trying to achieve and then how her mastering skills and tech can achieve that. So there's no cookie cut approach. It's not like she has a sound that she gets. You don't send her your song and it comes back mastered, done. It's far more deep than that. I find that really inspiring. And second takeaway is that she actually spends time listening to the music as a listener rather than just as a mastering engineer. So she kind of sits on a couch, puts the music on when she's in a relaxed mood and hears it just as a listener would hear it. And then if anything stands out to her that she thinks is odd, maybe she'll write a note down of what that is, and then she'll bring it up with the artist and say, I noticed this about it, what do you think? And rather than treating anything she notices as a problem to solve and a technical thing she's got to deal with. We all hear music differently, so she respects the fact that she might be hearing things differently to other people and wants to have that discussion. So she's very, very much like bespoke to the artist. That's kind of backing up that point. So it's brilliant. Thirdly, she loves having her skills and her workflow challenged and pushed. So she was talking about working with Björk, and who was very, very full on and had lots of new ways of making music and new production things, and flew her over to Iceland to work on the mastering. But when she got there, it turns out she actually had the Pro Tools session open, and they had the stems and they were doing more comping and more editing, and she was right in there mastering it within the mix, and she'd never done that, and she said that was really challenging, and many hours and days spent doing that. But that's Björk. If you want to work with those people and she's at such a high level, the music has to have that focus. So she likes being pushed. She's not sitting back going, yeah, I'm brilliant at mastering here, let me just do my magic for you. So thirdly, she will work on the music at the right time of day, so when she feels like the music is right time to listen to it. So she works on the music when she feels it's the right time of day to do so for that genre. And she gives the example of working with Aphex Twin, who's pretty crazy sort of electronic stuff. So she said that her and her assistant, who was delighted to work on the Aphex Twin stuff, that they had an all-nighter. They turned the lights down and they spent all night working on the music because it's nighttime music. So that's really cool. I love that. Another thing that she said that struck me was that artists these days, she sort of references more modern producers, maybe younger producers or less experienced producers, who are never really hearing their music in the real world, as in not through big systems. So if you're working in a genre that's going to be played out on systems like pop, R&B, dance music, electronic music, etc. She really says that it's very important to take your mixes and get them checked on big PAs and big club systems so that you know what's going on in the low end and you can make adjustments to your mix before it goes out to the world, because otherwise it's going to sound shit. It's not going to stand up to the other tracks being played. So, find a way of doing that. She says we all have clubs everywhere. There's lots of clubs around, and we all, everyone knows a DJ. So try and network and find that person who you can test your mixes out before they get mastered. And that's a common practice from back in the days of vinyl, and people would make dub plates, give them to a DJ, and they'd go and play them out in a club set, and they'd make notes and then go back and tweak their mix. So it's the same principle, but because everyone's working digitally now and it's all being emailed around, it's all being done without the club, without the environment being part of that process. And something that she said that really struck me is also about, she said a lot of people these days are mixing in on their master bus. They've got a mastering plugin, and I do this sometimes because we all want stuff to sound really good straight away, and it's tempting to put something on your master bus that's going to be doing subtle compression and widening and saturation and whatever else. It sounds great, and then you're mixing into that. But what she's saying is that actually means that when you get your track mastered, you have to take that off and it falls apart. So yep, that's something I'm going to stop doing as a result of hearing this video, because really, yeah, that's probably something that's a bit of a crutch. You end up leaning on these plugins to make you feel better about what you're doing rather than just making a great mix without these plugins. Another thing that she says is about technology, and it not being about the gear. I'm sure she's got some amazing gear, but she said that cheaper gear just makes us work harder, and she's done mastering on lots of different types of gear, including some cheaper stuff like a Mackie 24-track mixing desk, she says, and also she mastered something in a Vegas hotel room with headphones, I think. It's about our ears, how we interact with the sound. Cheaper equipment makes us work harder. Doesn't mean it can't be done, you just have to work harder to make it right. She says something interesting about limiters. So she says she uses multiple limiters doing different things on a master. So she'll have, I don't know specifically, but maybe, rather than just one limiter, which is doing all the job of crushing it and making it sound louder, she has one limiter doing a very, very subtle amount, and then another one doing another subtle amount of different types of limiting. And together those allow more dynamic range and more loudness, which is what we're kind of going for. It's interesting, might give that a try. And she says that what often people don't realise is everything you change in a mix affects everything else in some small way. So for example, turning down a kick drum might make the vocals come up more, or turning the synthesizers down or up might mean the vocal gets swamped or the guitar gets lost or anything like that. Things like that share frequency ranges. If you're going to boost them, you might start losing something. So really you need to be very wary of at the mastering stage, respecting the fact that you can affect the rhythm and you can affect things within a master. She starts talking about stuff that the streaming sites do. This is 2017, it's always changing, so who knows where they're at now, but all the different streaming sites have their own code, and they're streaming it differently and different kind of compressions and all this kind of stuff. So really the sample rate, when she does a master, she does multiple different sample rates and bit rates and sends them out so that the client has an option for which one to send to which streaming site, because they're competing, they're businesses. They're not creative, they're not focused on the music quality, they're focused on their service being the better one, the louder one and whatever. So it's a bit of a weird time for mastering. A lot of mastering engineers get blamed for stuff that's actually the streaming sites' algorithms changing the sound. Anyway, yeah, and that's my takeouts from the first half of this interview with Mandy Parnell. I recommend watching the whole thing. I'm going to finish it off now. I didn't want this video to be crazy long, so I thought I'd just do my first kind of initial thoughts. All right, cool.